edition of Casey's Corner 3. Yes, this is Casey Coggins driving home from work as I do every episode of this. And time to talk basketball. The last episode I talked about the Warriors being okay. They are in DEFCON 5. I believe, the higher the DEFCON numbers, the worse it gets. So, Steph breaking his hand, not a good look. It's the season from hell for them. So, disregard everything I had to say in episode 2 about the Warriors. This episode is going to be about the Phoenix Suns, the team that Steph broke his hand against when they were getting just run off the court. They defeated the last undefeated team in the Philadelphia 76ers, granted, without Joel Embiid. But for a team that has been a bottom dweller for a decade, since they traded Steve Nash, they have not been relevant. Them sitting at 5-2 right now is seemingly a miracle, just based off of recent success for them. Devin Booker has been a good stats, bad team guy for his career, just because, like I said, they haven't been relevant. And for the last couple, a lot of NBA analysts have been saying this guy needs a point guard. That he needs somebody to be able to set up the offense, because he can run off screens and catch and shoot, and he's a fantastic offensive player. Think CJ McCollum, but better offensively. And CJ McCollum, we all know, no slouch. But as far as just offensive skills go, Devin Booker, if he was in CJ McCollum's role, Portland would look, I think, just as good. The defense thing might be a little shaky. McCollum's probably a little better of a defender, but we really don't know if Devin Booker's a good defender or an average defender, because he's been on such bad teams that it's just you never know completely what you're getting in situations like this. But offensively, he can fill it up. So we've been talking about getting that guy a point guard. Like, stop trying to. They went from having all point guards back when they had like Isaiah Thomas and Eric Bledsoe and skipping on a name, but they had too many point guards that they couldn't find the room for, and then they drafted Devin Booker and then just abandoned point guards all together. It's been a really weird roster, and that's why they were given such shit for passing on Luka Doncic. Like, how incredible could this team look if you put Luka Doncic next to Devin Booker? Like, yeah, DeAndre Ayton is a good big man, and you do need quality bigs to win in the league, but I don't think DeAndre Ayton is the game breaker that Luka Doncic is, and I don't think anybody thinks that. And so this year, after having a bad season, they went out and finally found a point guard. They got a quality veteran point guard in Ricky Rubio, and I don't think it's surprising that they're 5-2, but that's just based off of the given history of them. Like I said just a minute ago. But looking at the way that the roster's built, like, they brought in Kelly Oubre, who has always been a uber talented guy. Ricky Rubio has been solid for the Jazz the last few seasons. He finally developed a three-point shot from leaving Minnesota. He's always been a good defender. Led the league in steals, I believe, a couple of years. He's always been able to pass the ball, and he just knows how to run an offense. And so you have a guy who can run an offense, a guy who can light it up, an X factor in Oubre, and that's the pieces. Like, that's at least some starting pieces to competence. Now, when I looked at the score last of the Sixers-Suns game, and I saw the Suns were up like 100-92, I was kind of taken aback. But then I looked at the box score and I saw that Aaron Baines was 6 of 6 from the floor and 3 of 3 from 3. If Aaron Baines is doing that, the Suns are making the playoffs. Like, there's no, like, if you're getting that kind of production from a guy like Aaron Baines, you're going to win more games than you lose, because those are the types of games you need from role players. It's incredible to watch that just a couple of moves in the right direction, and it's almost like they flipped the switch and like suddenly got smart about roster building. They would probably like to have TJ Warren still, but it's one of those things where if you have to give up a guy who's talented to become a just X's and O's better team, then you do it. Like, just because a guy's tremendously talented doesn't mean he makes your team better, because if he doesn't fit in, he doesn't fit in. That's just how it works. So it's a point about roster building, and it's a point about just like understanding the game, and that's what we're seeing out of the Phoenix Suns so far this season. And I'm doing this little spiel on the Suns, and they're gonna just lose the next 10 games, and then I'll come back on here and say, well, disregard everything I had to say about the Phoenix Suns, because that's just how things work. Is, for me at least, I make an observation, I see something, I make a statement on it, and then all of a sudden the opposite works. But as of this moment, like, if you're a Suns fan and you were part of the bright future Suns bandwagon, like, you're seeing all of that patience come to fruition this season. And it's just so nice to see that. It's always nice to see, for me, to see teams that have been just so bad for so long finally figure it out. That's why I was so hopeful the Browns would figure it out in the NFL. I've been rooting for the Kings to make the playoffs the last couple years. This year, I picked the Mavericks to be the 8 seed because I enjoy watching young teams kind of build themselves into contenders. With the Warriors, I remember watching the Warriors in 2011, 2012, right before everything exploded for them. I was at 2 of the playoff games the Spurs played them in that year. The game 1 was the double overtime game where Manu hit the game-winning 3, and I'm watching, young Steph, young Clay, young Draymond. Like, you watch this team, and you're like, they're the next team. They are going to take the step. They're going to be the next. Like, could this team make it to 3 straight finals? I said the same thing about the Thunder. I mean, we all know what happened with the Thunder, but I remember watching them in 2010 playing the Lakers in the first round and really pushing that Lakers, who ended up winning the championship. I believe that series went 5 or 6 games, but you can see things in playoff series where you can tell that team is about to take the next step. For the Thunder, they ended up making the finals 2 years later after coming back down 2-0 to the Spurs, and then we know what happened with the Warriors. They went to 5 straight finals a couple years later. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen with the Suns. Rubio is a little older than you would want in a cornerstone point guard, so they're going to need to find a long-term solution there. It's not Devin Booker. It's just not. He should be, like I said, he should be the CJ McCollum role. You have Damian Lillard, who's the main ball handler, the main shot creator. Maybe the point guard doesn't need to take as many shots as Dame does for Portland, but he's the main ball handler. And then when it's time to let Devin Booker / CJ McCollum get going, like in running pick and rolls, then you let him do his thing. That's just that is the best way for the Suns to be relevant for the long haul. Like, you have a big man when DeAndre Ayton gets off of diuretics and can actually play. You have an athletic big man who can set screens. He's a quality shooter from 15 to 18 feet. I mean, he's tried to shoot threes, but he's at least decent in the pick and pop mid-range game, and he's athletic enough to dive to the hoop, catch the ball, and finish on guys. So you have a core with Ayton and Booker. Where's that point guard coming from? Now, depending on how the rest of the season goes, could we see a Cole Anthony at UNC with Phoenix? Because I think that'd be a nice little backcourt with Cole Anthony and Devin Booker paired with DeAndre Ayton. But that's the next step. Get yourself a point guard for the long haul. Find a way to replicate some of these successful teams' recipes. You have now, while it's one thing to say, yes, replicate the recipes, but you can't replicate having Steph Curry, who is arguably the greatest shooter of all time. He probably is the greatest shooter of all time just because of what he can do off the ball and on catch and shoot from different angles, all of that stuff. Like, he's changed how people see shooting three-pointers. Then you have Klay. Like, you can't replicate Klay Thompson, who's 6'7", 6'8", a Ray Allen type shooter where he's over 40%. One of the best, probably the best two-way two-guard in the league, as far as, defense and offense goes, because we all know James Harden doesn't do that defense thing very well. And you can't replicate Draymond Green. Like, you can try. That guy is a one of a kind. He's, he is the Dennis Rodman. Like, nobody would have thought we could replicate Dennis Rodman, and yet here we are with Draymond Green. So it's hard to replicate those guys, but you can replicate the recipe. Get 2 high-quality point guards. Get a high-quality big that can, and preferably the big is that Draymond Green, small ball 5 type guy. Look at the success Houston's had. PJ Tucker is that small ball 5. Some of the most successful teams are able to play small, but yet have a guy who can bang with guys like LaMarcus Aldridge and Steven Adams and Nikola Jokic, but also on the offensive side, if you're having them run, if you're having your 5 initiate the offense and he's athletic enough to come off of a screen handling the ball, get to the rim and make a play, that's why I say Draymond Green is one of a kind, because peak Draymond Green is, there's nobody like it. He's going to shut down your you're a big man, you're 7-footer, even though he's giving up 5 inches to him. He's going to get a block, get a steal, get a rebound, push the ball up the court, come off of a screen, get into the paint, and be able to hit Steph Curry or Klay Thompson with a precision pass on the run. Like, it's just, it's hard to replicate, but you have to try to find somebody like that. You look at a team like the Heat, like Justice Winslow and Jimmy Butler have somewhat of those capabilities. You know, they're not going to guard a 5, but they're guys that can play. You can go small with them playing the 3 and the 4 because of their build. The Spurs have a little bit like that with the fact that if they wanted to go small, their small ball lineup is LaMarcus, Rudy Gay, DeMar DeRozan. I mean, their small ball lineup is essentially their starting lineup, just with Rudy Gay instead of Trey Lyles. But even with Trey Lyles in it, he's a guy who can stretch the floor as a 6'10" guy who can rebound. And all of this is to say that the Suns, there's a chance that the Suns are going to be, let's say, a Western Conference finalist 2 years from now. And for those who listen to this, it is November 5th, 2019 at 7:01. And I am predicting that, I mean, I do have to say the if, because it does rely heavily on the way that they go about building the roster the rest of this year, over the next off season, and then the off season after that. So this year goes by, next year goes by, the season after that, which will be the 2021-2022 season, the Phoenix Suns could be a Western Conference finalist if they keep building the roster the way that they've built it, with the influx of young talent. And that is this episode of Casey's Corner 3, revolving around the Phoenix Suns and Devin Booker and Ricky Rubio and DeAndre Ayton, and a little bit of the former Spur Aaron Baines. So, you know, it's only 15 minutes or so, however long. When you listen, comment, like, subscribe to the Benchwarmers podcast, listen to everything we have to do. Go find the Facebook page, hit me up on Twitter at Casey Levain. Let me, Andrew, Alvin, know what you want to hear, what you like. Just, you know, talk shit, whatever you have to do. We want to see your engagement with this stuff. Appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time. Or I'll see you next time, where there is no we right here.
We are bandits of a different kind. We'll take your girl, pay you no mind. Stealing hearts is what we do. Watch out, girl.